Hey, everybody out there in Cryptid Land. Thanks for joining me and my buddy Dirty over there tonight. We're going to be interviewing Sue Walker, and she's got some really cool stories about aliens, which she likes to call the others, which after talking to her, I kind of have to agree. They don't seem that bad. And there's quite a connection between them and Bigfoot. Orbs, UFOs, it all intertwines. Plus, she's going to tell you how to get your telepathy on. So join us tonight.
The Cryptid Quest Podcast.
Gathered a few things to have next to me here.
Cool.
Because I'm in a wheelchair, getting up and down is not easy, and I have to move everything out of the way and shift.
I got you.
And so it's slow. And so I try and be prepared ahead of time with small size sorts of things.
Awesome.
And then, let's see, did I grab anything a little bit bigger?
Hey, Dirty,
have it within reach.
Doesn't she remind you of my sister Anna a little bit?
Oh, she's the artist, isn't she?
Yeah, she's the artist.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some Sasquatch here too that aren't often seen. Let's see. And some Sasquatch kids too. Let me move the Ponte aside here. And this guy's one of my favorites.
I love that one. I remember you sent me that one. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. And then things like just big guy in the forest. I've got some other ones that I have in plastic, and I'm suspecting that you won't be able to see them with the plastic on them. See how it shines?
Yeah, but I can still see it really good.
Okay.
As long as you hold it like a little bit at an angle.
Yep.
The
Exactly.
shine doesn't affect
and I
it.
can kind of watch for the shine and.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Sasquatch kids are, of all the Sasquatch that I do, the moms and kids are my favorites. So just because they're so fun.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's something that intrigues me about Sasquatch. You know, my encounter was scary, but I know that their families are out there, and I don't. You can call it jealousy, but when I hear a story about somebody that sees a mom and a baby, I'm like, I'm like.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to see. So,
one of the researchers here in town was doing some exploration into a new area up on the Colorado-New Mexico border, a little between Dulce and Taos. Okay, so kind of in the middle of the state where there's quite a few caves and things. But he came over a ridge and saw a mama and a child stopped in his tracks, had a weapon in his hands, and suddenly realized that dad was closer than mama and baby. Really stopped in his tracks, put up his hands, and started to back away. And the dad started to go after him, and the mama said, let him go. He's backing away. He's not causing a problem. Let him go. And so he backed out of there.
I've heard that so many times. I've heard that on more than one occasion. Obviously, well, maybe not, but are you familiar with Sasquatch Chronicles?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm familiar with Sunbow. And Sunbow has some of my artwork, by the way. And familiar with quite a few of the folks that are premier Sasquatch researchers that really have a unique story to tell, like Mike Patterson up in Ontario, who, if you haven't talked to him, you need to.
Okay. Put
Mark
in a good word
Abel
for me.
Is a Colorado Bigfoot on YouTube, and he's the fellow that spent more time above 9,000 feet researching and documenting their structures and interacting with them than anybody else. And then Colorado Forest Beings YouTube channel, he goes up into the country above the tree line where it's all rock, stone, and giant stones, and has found their stone structures and a lot of their artwork
Oh, wow.
in stone.
That is so cool.
So we keep track. We got introduced in the very first Psychic Sasquatch and Psychic and Spiritual Sasquatch conference back in 2016 to a lot of the premier people around the planet, because at that point in time, there wasn't any other conference that was being open to people talking about the telepathic, psychic, dimensional nature of Sasquatch, because all the other conferences poo-pooed it.
Yeah, and that drives me nuts, because people act like certain people act like they know exactly what this is. We don't know. We don't know.
No.
We don't know.
No.
There's so many avenues it could be.
It could be all kinds of avenues. And what I liked is we heard first-time stories at that conference, and over the next 4 years, the first 4 years of that conference, that you would never hear anywhere else.
Exactly. I
And
love that.
people just sat around and opened up in front of the campfires and in circles around tents and shared stories with one another internationally. The premier researcher out of Russia was there. The Yowie researchers from Australia came. The European researchers from Denmark and I'm trying to remember where else came. England, and then all of North America and Canada was there. And everybody shared their strange and weird stories so that they could look for the overlap across continents.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Yeah, that is perfect. And I love that. And so back to what I was getting ready to say earlier, when you talked about now I lost my train of thought. You're gonna have to give me a half second. So you're good. You're good. I love how you're putting it out there. So for one thing, as far as like the mind speak goes, so somebody that I really respect is Survivor Man, Les Stroud.
Oh yeah.
And he was on Sasquatch Chronicles, and that reminds me of the second story the first one I was actually gonna say. But when he was on Sasquatch Chronicles, and he said that because obviously you're not gonna believe right off the bat. You're gonna have to hear some things or experience some things before you take the next tier up. And when he said that, and then I started talking to more people, it just gave it a lot of credence. Like, I'm like, wow, not everybody's telling a fib, There's a lot of people out there telling the truth, but everybody wants to think they're fibbing. So, and before I let you start again, I'm going to get back to what...
Right, I understand.
It's
we
okay.
can get to talking and talk for hours and forget to hit record.
Me too. So on Sasquatch Chronicles, it's actually in his intro, and I've been on Sasquatch Chronicles, but his intro, I think it's episode 515, was a lady from England that had come over here. She was on the coast, and she was taking a walk. And I don't know if you've heard this episode or not, but there was a male Sasquatch out in the water, a bunch of females, or not a bunch, maybe like 2, 3, and then some baby ones. And she said the male was going deep into the water, grabbing seaweed, tossing it to the females. They were like biting it and like rubbing it on themselves. And she was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And she's way up on like in a parking lot, like on a cliff. And she's watching them, and she pulls out her camera to take a picture. But when she does, it smacks her car and it makes a sound. The male notices her.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Makes a beeline. She said it looked like it wanted to kill her. Because of
the kid. Yes.
Probably. Starts making a beeline towards her. But the female, she said, looked like she was arguing with him or saying, don't you do it. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. And I think she fainted, passed out or something. But she said she ended up waking up in her car with the door open.
No, she probably did not pass out. She probably was suggested. That's the phrase that they use when they take over the control of another person's mind.
Okay.
They don't. They drop you into a suggestible state, like a hypnotic state.
Yeah.
That's the state where telepathy is clearest in that slower brainwave state. But at that state, you're also extremely suggestible, and they know it, and they implant the idea of, don't you want to take a nap in your car? You want to take a nap in your car. I suggest you take a nap in your car. And they do. And you can be suggested to get in your car and drive home and be halfway home before you know that you're even doing it. So that's
never heard of that before.
Yep. It's a common term that goes with telepathic nations to suggest things to someone. They can't control you because you have your own free will, but they can certainly suggest things to you. And so if they say, sit down and be quiet, that's all you're going to do, is you're going to sit down and you're going to be quiet until they tell you something else.
Well,
and so there is that sort of mind control, suggestibility by any telepathic nation, whether it's a Sasquatch or a Star Nation or whoever.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if I have a 8 foot tall Sasquatch coming at me, and it says, lay down, take a nap in your car, I'm going to be like, yep.
Don't have to ask me twice.
But she woke up, she had no injuries. So that makes sense. Because I'm like, how in the heck did she get, because I've always wondered that. How did she get into her car with absolutely no sign of being touched?
No memory of doing it.
Yeah.
That's why. That's how. The other thing that you notice in interactions where you have mom, kids, and dad.
Yeah.
Mom speaks, dad listens, because they're a matriarchal society. And that's how you know. Because if they weren't, that wouldn't work, right?
Yeah. Then mom's the queen.
The oldest elder female in a clan, in a tribe, has the biggest say. She will tell the elder males and the young bucks what to do, and they carry out her orders. But she's the one who has the final say.
Well, that makes sense because guys are jerks. I'm just going to say.
They run on adrenaline and they run on testosterone, and sometimes the wiser heads don't always prevail.
Exactly.
Especially if they're protecting their kids. So I get that. I
like how you're bringing everything full circle here.
Well, I never started out being a Sasquatch researcher. And in fact, we would never have gone to the first conference ever because it wasn't my genre.
Yeah.
I'd had some Sasquatch experiences that were not major, they were minor, but I wasn't really thinking about them. And it wasn't until we found out that our ET friends, the Ponte, their nation was favorite buds with the Sasquatch nation because they share a similar sense of humor.
All right. So unless you got some amazing Sasquatch story, we're going to transition now because
let's transition.
Because
what do you want to transition into?
This is an area that intrigues me more than you know. It's the relationship between alien beings and Sasquatch. And I'm sure you probably know more about the subject than I do.
And we're happy to share.
Yes, and that's what I want. I want to educate the viewers and listeners.
All right. How do you normally start your show? Or is Dirty already recording things?
Oh, we're already recording. We're getting it, girl.
Okay. All right. So, a lot of people.
Hold on. One second, Sue.
But we can break.
Oh, yeah. We're recording.
No.
So.
Let me finish. You can break.
That's fine. I will try and keep my coughing into editable.
So we're going to do a break, and then
Okay.
you start again.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So basically, what I want to know is what the relationship is between alien beings and Sasquatch. And I know you're more of an expert than I am, so let's do it.
Okay.
Educate us.
When we think about extraterrestrial nations or individuals that we're not sure where they're from, we have to remember we don't know if they are from another planet, another time zone, time frame in history or future, or another dimension. We have a very big suspicion that at least some of the Sasquatch nations are transdimensional, which is why we're unsure. However, we are very aware that a lot of Sasquatch researchers report seeing UFOs, UAPs, and others, I'm going to use that general catch-all term, while they are out squatching and don't know what to do with it. What we do know is this. One, the Sasquatch themselves tell us that they originated on Earth. We also know from our extraterrestrial friends that they can and do catch rides and travel with some of the star nations that visit Earth in order to go explore other worlds. Theirs is a very, very durable body type that can deal with all kinds of environments. The Sasquatch have a marvelous sense of humor, and so do our Ponte extraterrestrial friends. And their humor is very, very similar. And so when the Ponte first came to Earth as a telepathic nation, they met the telepathic nation of the Sasquatch and went, "Oh, hi."
Yeah.
We're your neighbors next door from up there. And the two of them realized that they got along very, very well. And so it's not unusual to see the little gray guys. The Zeta body type is what we call them. Instead of using the term alien or the term gray, because there are dozens of Zeta body type individuals visiting this planet from different places. We don't want to lump them all together as if they're from one world. But if they have large dark eyes with retractable dark lenses, larger heads, slender body types, most of the time fewer fingers than we have, either 3 or 4, and typically tend to be either shorter than us, around the 4.5 foot tall range, or taller than us at the 8 foot tall range. Those will describe the typical Zeta body types that we see here. And so it's not unusual when they come to Earth and they're a telepathic nation for them to stop by and go, "Oh, hey," to the other telepathic nations, either on land or under the water. And so that's where we know it's common to witness the craft, the saucers, the ovals, sometimes the cylinders. But we have also noted that the 8-sided ships are frequently seen dropping Sasquatch off or picking them up.
I've heard stories about the ships dropping them off or picking them
Not
up.
usually the pyramid ships or the triangular ships. That would be more rare. Now, it's not unusual if we see, let's say, a saucer coming into and trying to land.
I saw one that looked like a cube.
Okay, a cube is a little bit more unusual, but not out of the realm of possibility. The flat triangle ships tend to be the ones that we have recreated first here, like the TR-3Bs, that kind of a shape from the U.S. military. But they oftentimes will follow in behind an oval or a saucer craft, chasing after them rather than be the first in and trying to land in that area. The big X's that you see the Sasquatch
Correct.
building in the landscape, they're pretty easy to spot from the air.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And
didn't even
so,
think about that.
yeah, it's not that it necessarily is there to mark, here's where you land, but they've recognized if we go to this area and we spot their X, yeah, we'll find a place nearby.
So do you think it's a certain type of Sasquatch? Because you said there's a couple like
There are several
variances.
different variations of big hairy hominid of some kind, whether they have a more ape-like body type or a more human type face.
Like Neanderthals, what I've heard a lot.
Mhm. And everything in between. We have reports of some Sasquatch wearing clothing. When the Sasquatch researchers are out in the field, some of them report hearing sudden stop-start mechanical sounds out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Like door slamming and
And
things like that.
that's right. That's right. And we are assuming that part of that may be craft that are either hovering or on the ground that they are going into and out of with some of their ET friends or dimensional friends. We don't hear any reports if people observe a portal or the Sasquatch being solid and then slowly vanishing. We don't hear any reports of unusual sounds when that happens necessarily.
Okay.
But
That was my
we
next
do
question.
when we have reports of sightings of extraterrestrials or extra dimensionals or interdimensional beings. And we don't know what to call them. That's why we use the term the others.
The others.
Um,
Okay.
and it's an easy catch-all term. Now, if you're talking about other beings that live in the forest with them that are unusual, we refer to them as woodbin. Woodbin simply is the Sasquatch translation word of forest family.
Okay.
So if they, whether they're the little guys that
Yeah.
look like miniature Sasquatch, the ones that look more like dwarves, the ones that look more like, have people described to you the half and halves?
I've not
Where
heard of
they're
that.
okay. I got that term from Mark Abel of Colorado Bigfoot, where he's seen them from the waist on down. They look like a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
From the waist on up, they are pure white and bald.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
half and half. And so, do we understand all of that? No.
No.
But they are part of the forest folk. The white, long-limbed beings that have small heads and no hair that people call rakes or
God, I had a report.
walkers.
My last episode I did, I had a report of like seeing the guy saw 3 of them.
Right.
I don't
And
want to drop
so
his name. He knows who he
we're
is.
not positive how they interact with the Sasquatch, the dogmen, the other woodmen. We're not positive. We do know that they are sighted on a regular basis with all of these other beings. And so we are assuming that they are part of the forest folk in some fashion.
Okay.
Now, are they from just this dimension? That's an unknown.
Okay.
Could they be a cross-dimensional or trans-dimensional species member like the Sasquatch are? That's not out of the realm of possibility.
So I do have to ask you a question. This has
Sure.
been on my mind for a little bit. What do you think about orbs? Because I've actually seen an orb in real life. It scared the hell out of me.
All right. So this round
Yeah,
shape
about
that's
that big.
is a universal form that my suspicion, I don't know this for sure, my suspicion is that trans-dimensional individuals have the ability to take this shape. Now, I don't know that, except that we hear about orbs in paranormal research with the ghost hunters, right alongside the Sasquatch researchers, right alongside the people who talk about
aliens and
other things. But what we have now, that I just acquired a copy of it last week, is orb, beam of light going together, beam of light having within it the face of a Sasquatch.
Okay, and I've heard
and I can show you
that. I've actually heard about people saying they've seen orbs, but they see the face of a Sasquatch in it, which is, I don't know, that blows my mind. But I mean,
we don't understand it, but yes, that's exactly
where I had my experience at is where I saw the orb, and it wasn't at the same time, and it scared the hell out of me. So you know, all this time, and there's so many stories, because you know, once you get into it, you want to know everything. You want to hear every story, and you want to hear everybody's experience. And so the more I started hearing about people, because when I told my story the first time, I didn't bring up the orb part.
Right.
Because I'm like, people think I'm crazy, and they already think I'm crazy. So, but the more I heard about it, I'm like, I bet 101 made two, and I just didn't see it at the time. So every time I talk to somebody that knows kind of, you know, about the things you're talking about, I want to know what you know and what you think, because it means a lot in my heart and a lot of people's.
We did not understand the relationship, and I'm not sure that we have it all pieced together at all. But we met a paranormal photographer from Sedona by the name of Darrell Stokes. And Darrell has more photographs of orbs with details in them than anybody else I've ever come across. And so we went with Darrell to an area just outside of Sedona that had a spring. And I recognized that the Sasquatch know where all the springs are, so we took gifting stuff, okay? And Darrell said to us, if you see something bright flash at you, an orb, a pinpoint of light, whatever it is, point it out immediately, and we will point the camera at it and take a picture, okay? So we were laying our stuff down at the base of this tree that had been struck by lightning, and it had a V in the crotch, and I looked up, and there was an orb, a little one, a pinpoint of light that flashed at me from the crotch. And I said, there, and I pointed up, and they immediately took a picture. What came across immediately in the camera was a ball of light this big.
Oh, wow.
And we have it on film.
That's so cool.
It was. It was the first time that I had seen a pinpoint of light a microsecond later be photographed this big.
Bam.
And I'm like, how does this work? And so I started gathering stories about people's recognition of different kinds of light and started collecting photos of them. And so if you want to see the photo of the beam of light with the face in it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me, and we can attach it to the link of the show. So if you want to keep on this course, that's fine. But I think, is it time to go
Yeah,
straight.
where else do you want the conversation to meander?
I want to know
to?
about all them really cool pictures you drew and your experiences. And
Oh boy!
all right, is
All
that
right.
okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Back in 2013, I was just beginning to date my now spouse. I lived in Iowa at the time. He lived in New Mexico, and I wanted to come down and see how he lived because I wanted to see what kind of a place he had and the quality of individual, and I wanted to get to know him better. And I had been here at his home in a suburb of Albuquerque about 10 days, and it was the fall equinox of 13. And that was the first time that I heard one of the Ponti talk to me out of the blue.
So
Excuse
the
me a minute.
Ponti looked like, you said that's a, oh, you're fine.
The Ponti are
Here, we'll pause for a minute.
Yeah.
And then I'll renew my question. It's all good. So the
the
Ponti,
Ponti have larger heads. They're a Zeta body type.
okay.
They are from the Zeta Reticuli area of the sky. And they have small noses with very little cartilage, not just holes for nostrils.
Okay.
Their eyes beneath these dark lenses have iris colors, the same colors as we have, but also including gold tones and lavender tones instead of just blue, green, and brown.
So the lenses, are they over their eyes all the time?
They retract them.
Okay.
These
Kind of
are
like we
protective
blink?
lenses.
Okay.
If you have a reptilian or a bird here on Earth, they have lenses that nictitate back and forth
Correct.
as they are needed. That's the way these dark lenses are. Because they come from a place where our light levels make their eyes very sensitive, they operate with the dark lenses intact.
Kind of like
Most of the
sunglasses.
They're built-in sunglasses. That's
That's
exactly
cool.
what they are.
That's cool.
So they have to be in a very dark environment for them to retract them, but their night vision is almost full color,
Oh, wow. Wow.
much broader than our eye spectrum vision is. You know how eagles can see farther, dogs can hear differently. Well, these guys can see in light levels that are very, very dim. And so if they go, say, spelunking and caving, they don't need a light.
Must be nice.
Yeah, well, anyway, the Ponti have been here for a long, long time. And here in the desert Southwest, one of the places that they have a base is underneath the Sandia Mountain that's on the eastern edge of Albuquerque.
Okay.
That was the location where the fellow that introduced himself to me in 2013 was from. I didn't know his name initially, and so I gave him a nickname. I gave him the nickname Sandia because that was where the voice came from. We found out a couple months later that his real name was Tilcum, and that his homeworld was called Pontel. We talked to Tilcum all by himself for a year and a half before we got introduced to anybody else that he was working with. And so we chatted with him like you would chat with neighbors across the backyard fence and got to know him as a person, culturally, talked to him a little bit every day. When we got introduced to others, we got introduced to a guy and a gal that worked for Tilcum. He managed the facility under the Sandia Mountain. And it was the young man that he introduced us to that was named Rahaz, that we nicknamed Radar. And Radar was buddies with the Sasquatch up in the Valles Caldera area of north central New Mexico, where the ancient supervolcano is. And there's lots and lots and lots of caves and tunnels.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So that's how we started to get introduced to the Sasquatch, is because of Radar and his friendship with them. It wasn't until 2016 in the spring that one day Teokum contacted us, and my husband and I can hear him equally well. But he contacted us and he said, Sue, I want you to go teach. And I said, okay. I said, what do you want us to teach? Well, we want you to teach telepathy. And I looked at my spouse and I said, you want us to teach what? I didn't understand. But they dictated to us a manual to teach. But when he said, I want you to go teach, I said, okay, where? Where do you want us to go teach telepathy? And he spelled out Kiwani Lapsaritis' full name. Kiwani Lapsaritis was the researcher at the first Psychic and Spiritual Sasquatch conference who was already teaching other people that the Sasquatch were telepathic. And that we as Earth humans can learn to develop our own skill set if we practice. We never were taught it as kids and never practiced to get better, but our brains have the hardware.
So, and then I have to bring up, because they talk about, like, humans, we do have the ability, but I hope I don't screw this word up again. I always screwed up. The pineal gland?
Pineal.
Pineal. Gosh
Right.
dang it,
So
I
there's
did it
two
again.
Nope, you're all right.
I always screw it
You're
up.
real close.
So the pineal gland, they gets coated or
it's
something.
deeper than just the surface here. You have to go into the middle of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
But the pineal gland is part of it. The other part of it is a brain part called the amygdala. And the amygdala controls the emotions that you send and receive and perceive. And so telepathy kind of travels on an emotional carrier wave. You cannot have telepathy without having the emotions behind it.
Okay.
That's why you can't have a telepathic robot. Doesn't work.
Okay. So when you let me stop for a second.
Oh, yeah.
So when you say the emotions, so does that just mean the desire? Does that mean you have to be happy, or
No, you don't have to be happy. You just have to put an emotional oomph behind your telepathic sending.
I got you.
And know that whoever receives it is going to understand all of your emotions right along with your message.
And it doesn't have to be a specific emotion.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense.
Not at all.
That makes
Not
sense.
at all.
Okay.
If you are stressed and in fear, adrenaline shuts off your ability to perceive faster than just about anything else, unless you're really, really, really practiced and can control it. But if you go into fight or flight response, that's that adrenaline, then your ability to pick up messages or send clearly kind of get compromised a little bit, because your body is trying to figure out if you either have to run away or fight a beast.
I got you. I got you. That makes sense. So, wow. So, have you? I mean, the alien. And I don't want to call them aliens anymore. I feel bad doing that.
Big story, yes.
So, So,
Yes.
any other species of intergalactic beings?
Mhm.
Um, how many have you come across?
Lots.
Lots.
Um,
Should I be scared?
how many have I seen craft of, and then they have come to visit me?
Yeah.
That started when I was young.
Okay.
My earliest memory, my first memory of being interacted with, I was 3.5 to 4. And I woke up and I watched a reptilian walk through the wall of the bedroom. I did. I
I know,
watched
no,
him
no.
move.
I totally believe you, but I always
Yeah.
heard that them
That
are
was
the
that was the
worst
first experience.
ones.
When I was young and in elementary school, I couldn't sleep with my closet door open because the little gray guys with the big eyes always came out of my closet.
And,
They came
and
through the roof and into my closet and then into my bedroom.
I've heard so many stories about them being bad, but you say they're not so bad? The
All
little
right,
gray ones?
so the Ponti,
Ponty.
the Ponti from Zeta Reticuli 2, the Zeta Reticuli is a binary system, so we have to distinguish 1 and 2. But the Ponti have a protocol that when they visit us, they have to follow, just like we have protocols if we go on missions in our military. Okay. Their protocol whenever they enter an Earth human home is cause no fear, do no harm, leave no trace. And so those are the 3 things that they keep in mind every time they come to visit one of us. People say, well, they abduct you. Well, they will take you sometimes, not always, and take you back to their ship to do wellness checks and return you. But you notice you're not kidnapped and kept somewhere else. And when you come back, you're not injured. There are some star nations that will put a tracker in you under the skin. But to be honest, a great deal of the time, our own US military does that very
I
same
believe
thing.
that.
Okay.
I believe that.
It is not unheard of for us as experiencers to get visited by a star nation. They leave, their ship goes away, the US military comes in and follows and enters right on their heels. That's not unusual. We've heard that from a number of people. But the Ponti themselves do not come to hurt you, injure you. When we asked them about anal probing, their first response was, ew.
That's what Dirty says sometimes when I say something bad.
Ew. But they don't, unless somebody has a colon problem or a problem with the prostate, there's no reason for them to do an anal probe. They have all kinds of other means of
Yeah,
equipment.
I would imagine. So, but the one that worries me, and I don't know. I heard you mention them is the reptile
Okay,
because
so
I've heard
we have to
bad things,
qualify
and I don't
again.
know.
All right, so here on Earth, we are the 4th age of man to reach the capability of leaving our own atmosphere. We, as Earth humans, have risen to this point to be able to go up to the moon 4 times and then died back due to Earth disaster or whatever. But before us, the reptilians were around for millions of years, not hundreds of thousands, millions. And they developed a number of sentient species that when they had their disaster, they were helped off world by Star Nation folks, taken to another location that they could survive. And some of them have meandered back and are underground here. Instead of reptilian, we refer to them as reptaran because they were originally from here. Okay. So are all reptilian nations bad? Not at all. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
They come in all shapes and sizes, all manners of advanced civilization levels. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But there is one contingent from the Draco constellation that has not been particularly nice on our planet. They were not from here, but their outlook on mammals is not quite what we would like it to be. And so we know of one nation out of millions. Millions. This galaxy is huge. And there are millions of worlds with sentient peoples on them of all kinds, whether they are terrestrial or aquatic or other. And so we caution people to not lump all reptilians together as if it's just one star nation from one place who are bad, and that makes them all bad.
Well, you just educated one person, so.
Okay. So it's the same way that we say, please don't call the Zeta body types grays as if they are all one nation from one place. And in fact, I put together a video recently. I've been collecting Zeta body type photos for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I throw them all together just to show people the wide variation of size, height, head shape.
If you want to show some of your pictures, I mean, feel free while we're talking.
I would have to show you a quick 3-minute video in order to see all the variations of Zeta body types.
Okay.
But it would give you a chance, and we can link that.
Yeah. If you send me a link, we can definitely, because I'm sure people will be interested.
It's a fascinating look-see. It's kind of like saying, are all dog men nasty? No. Okay.
I'm not every story I heard is bad. Actually, the last one I got, he said he ran up to him, just kind of turned his head like this and this, like, who the hell are you? What are you doing here? And just left. And that didn't sound scary, but I'm sure if I was there and it ran up to him, stopped, and just looked at him like this, and I was like, I think I'd have crapped my pants. I'm just saying. So, but that didn't sound like a bad encounter. It just sounded like a curious, creature, animal, or whatever it is, being.
If you look at what most other beings do when they spot us, they stop and stay very still.
Yeah.
Or they turn and they leave.
Yeah.
They don't attempt to scare you on purpose. They might growl at you and warn you off.
Yeah.
And that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
For any animal that doesn't want you near its kids. But they don't out and outright attack you normally. That's a rare instance compared to the vast majority of the stories. It's not unheard of, but it is very, very rare. And it is exceptionally rare amongst our nations.
Well, and that makes sense, though, because honestly, if you think about it, there's a lot of really good people on Earth, but there's still bad people on Earth. So I imagine the same's got, I don't care.
That's exactly right.
Care if you come from a good star nation, there's probably still going to be a couple bad ones in there. I would think.
That's exactly right.
So, that makes sense. I'm glad we don't experience a whole lot, because honestly, you're right. You don't hear a whole lot of bad stories. Like, if you hear about abductions, generally it might have scared the hell out of them, but they come back safe to tell their story. So, I see the path you're walking down, and it makes sense.
If we want to study the life patterns of a new species of animal in the Congo, it's not unusual for us to put a tracker on them or a collar to follow them around, to observe what they're doing, what they're eating, take stool samples, take blood samples, take DNA samples, and then let them live on their merry way.
Yeah.
And if you think about the story of Star Nations coming here wanting to know more about us, DNA samples, sometimes stool samples, skin samples, whatever, but they want to know what we eat, how we behave, where we live, what we need, et cetera, et cetera.
So,
same stuff.
So exact same thing, but the difference is when we do it, it's okay. But if they do it, hands off.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. People get all riled up.
Yeah.
And so we try to tell people that if they go out and want to have a CE5 party, and a CE5 party is where you go to some place and you're watching the night sky trying to get UFOs to interact with you. Okay. CE5 is close encounter of the fifth kind. But if a ship were to actually land and somebody were to actually get out, I don't know if anybody at the CE5 party would stay.
Exactly.
Or if they'd all run away. Okay? It would take the very brave person to stay and say.
So I actually had a guest who, he's actually got a video. He was on, I think it was Alien Encounters and something, I forget the exact name of the show, but his name is Jorgen Hess. And he was filming a craft. And I mean, it looked like just a ball of light going through the sky. But he said, if you can hear me, blink 3 times. I think he said blink 3 times. And he's filming it. It goes blink, blink, blink. And I was just like, amazed as he's filming.
We'll show you a film taken by a researcher that follows the Ponty's Twitter account, who lives in France. And he was doing that same thing, filming the sky, and asked them to blink, blink their ship lights, and got responses 7 times in a row.
Wow. Yeah, I think he got, I know he got at least 1, maybe twice, not 7 times that I know of. If I'm wrong, sorry, Jorgen.
You can watch it. You can watch it.
I would love that.
It's fascinating. They taught us that any ship coming into Earth's atmosphere, just about all of them, have the capability of creating their own cloud camouflage. So if they're up in the sky and they don't want to be seen, they'll just create a cloud around themselves and sit there. Okay. If they have a crew on the ground doing research and they're done and there's clouds in the sky and suddenly there's 5 or 6 or 7 of them, in order to find out which cloud your ship is in, they just send up a telepathic message. Hey, blink, blink, would you please? And so they know which cloud the ship is in. And so we just call that request a blink, blink request.
Blink, blink.
And blink, blink.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But what we did not know until later was that they can shape the cloud into anything they care to shape it into. They can make the cloud look like a giraffe. They can make the cloud look like you. They can make the cloud look like whatever it is that they want it to look like.
It's pretty cool because not long ago I saw one that looked like Sasquatch on YouTube. It was a cloud. Somebody took a picture of it. It looked like a Sasquatch. I'm like, what the heck?
And so I suspect that all of that comes out of the minds of very bored pilots.
So
Who are
do you
sitting
think they
in their
do that?
waiting for their crew on the ground, going, okay,
So,
what am I going to
so
do
do you
now?
think do you think they do that to give them an extra like, hey, I ain't got to blink at you. Look for the cloud that looks like a dinosaur.
They may do it that way. I suspect also that animals on the ground keep their eyes on the clouds, and sometimes I see them creating images in the clouds that are instructional for animals on the ground. Like, yeah, go catch that rabbit, or go get that lizard roadrunner, or yeah, mom, maybe you better nurse your baby. That kind of thing. It's just a educational sort of or observational
So
sort of
like Big
image.
Brother keeping an eye on us a little bit.
Mm-hmm,
Huh.
mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Just watching,
Yeah.
trying to not be bored.
Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna be a lot less bored knowing they're watching me all the time now.
They actually, the Ponti refer to themselves as cultural explorers. They're not here for our resources. They're not here to take over the planet. They've been here for a long, long, long time. They've been in this facility under the Sandia Mountain for, well, since the last ice age.
Oh wow. Well, you said they like humor, right?
Yeah.
I'm in like Flynn, right?
Oh yeah. You're all kinds of, and in fact, to be honest, if you read their manual, which is free online on their website, they have a website called officialfirstcontact.com.
Okay.
If you go there and look for the free Telepathy 101 primer is beginning teaching manual, like an old English school primer.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. So the Telepathy 101 primer is on the officialfirstcontact.com website for free. You can download the PDF file and read how you can take where you're at right now and improve your own telepathic skill set. But also in the primer at the back, they put down the protocols for contact.
Huh.
And so we translated from, it took me a year to translate what the Ponti were telling us about the primer and to find the right illustrations that they wanted in there to put it out so that people across the planet could learn how to invite them.
That's cool. That's cool. I want.
It works.
I want to
People all
invite
over the
them.
world now.
I'm not as scared as I was before.
Mm-mm.
You've kind of put my
And the
mind
more
at ease a
you
little
entice
bit.
them, tease them, intrigue them, tell them you have something really unique to teach them, the more they're all about it and want to come see you.
Very cool. Very cool. So Sue, hey, before we get off of here, I want to see some of your pictures. And do you want me to tell Kevin hi?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm on with him next. I don't know if Steve or Dirty will put this on. I screwed up again. So I don't know if Dirty will put this on, but yeah, I got Kevin on again, second time.
That's
But
okay.
he's the one who pointed me towards you, and I was like, yeah, I gotta have her on. So before
We have all kinds of pictures, and I don't know if I can share screen or if I need to go get some pictures and hold them up to you, or if I simply want to give them to you to put up.
You do it however you want. If you want to do a couple on the screen while we're here, or you can send them to me.
We can start with Sasquatch. I have been drawing the Sasquatch since the fall of 2016 at their request.
2016. That's when I had my experience. October 13th, 2016. Look at that.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
about the time I started finishing up my first couple of Sasquatch.
That's crazy.
And I've drawn hundreds now. I have boxes.
Man, I need to send out a signal to the one who scared me. And I said, you talk to Sue and have her draw a picture of you because I want to see you.
Actually, if you want, you and I can sit down. I know how to do forensic sketching, and you can describe what you remember. We'd start with a sketch. I draw what you described to me and then show it to you. You correct it. I correct the sketch, and we go back and forth and back and forth until the
Unfortunately,
sketch
I
is as
didn't have a
close as you
visual
can.
that night. I only
Oh,
heard
no.
I only heard a gorilla in the woods, and then it sounded like a howler monkey. Then it sounded like a chattering demon, and it scared the hell out of me. But that was
They can
enough.
make all kinds of sounds. The Sasquatch are huge imitators of sound, just like parrots are. This is one of the big guys
That's
that I
how
did.
I imagined the one in my brain when it was happening.
Mhm.
That's how I imagined. But he wasn't happy
Some of
though.
the Sasquatch have short hair all over their bodies. Some of them have longer hair on their heads and in the beards, and then the rest of the body is short haired. Um, I did one recently where I think I sent it to you where I had the Sasquatch with the dreads.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yes. And that one is in the living room right now, I think. Oh, no, it isn't.
I might have to get a copy of that one from my buddy Dirty over there. He'd probably like that one.
Here, Dirty.
Yeah. Dirty says he loves it. That's perfect.
All right, so you see the leaf sticking out of his mouth?
Uh-huh.
I got to tell you the chokeweed story.
I know what that is.
All right, so the chokeweed story resulted out of a telepathic interaction with a Sasquatch that I had up in Colorado in Estes Park. We were
Oh,
at a
I've been to
conference
Estes
and
Park.
oh, beautiful place,
It is.
gorgeous, perfect for Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord! But the hotel that we were at the conference at, we had a room on the second floor with a balcony that was right up against the mountain, and it was sunset. And I was out on the balcony getting a breath of air before supper, and my spouse was in the room and had the door open, and I was just staring out at the mountain. And Kawani Lapsaritis, the researcher that had helped start the Psychic Sasquatch conference, had just finished telling an audience of about 300 people that Sasquatch was telepathic. And we already knew because Aponte had told us. But I just because sent out this telepathic thought to the mountain in back of the hotel and said, hi, my name is Sue, and I was taught to speak to you telepathically by our extraterrestrial friends at Ponte. If you hear any inappropriate, loud, strange telepathic voices trying to contact you from the Earth humans here, I apologize for them in advance. They're trying. They don't really know what they're doing. And I didn't expect anything. And right then, Otter, who's in the room, that's my spouse's name is Otter. Otter said, Sue, have you had your seaweed yet? And I eat snacking seaweed, speaking of seaweed that we were talking about earlier, for the iodine, because it helps my thyroid. And I'm about ready to answer him. And suddenly I hear this female voice in my head coming from the mountain. And it said, what's seaweed? And I recognized that somebody was listening and was responding to my apology earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We're sorry if you hear any inappropriate voices. So I turned around and faced the mountain again so whoever it was could see me. And I said, seaweed is a plant that grows in the salt water of the ocean, and I eat it as a medicine to help keep me healthy. And I turned it right around, and I didn't miss a beat. And I said, do you have any plants that you use as a medicine? And I didn't know if I was going to get an answer. And there was this pause, and then a giggle. Oh, yes, she said, chokeweed. And I went, Chokeweed. And I know enough of the herbs of North America that the only chokeweed I knew of was a bindweed that grew in horse pastures and gave them colic. Excuse me. I knew that we could not eat that.
Yeah.
And I kind of doubted that they could too.
Yeah.
And so I said to this female, what I assumed was a lady Sasquatch, and I said, could you send me a picture of what you call chokeweed? I might call it something different.
Mm-hmm.
And a minute later, clear as a bell in my head, she sent this image of this 8-foot tall, ready to harvest, fully mature pot plant. Chokeweed! She was very enthusiastic right now. We throw it on our fires. Our kids and our families digest their food better. Our kids go to sleep better, and then we laugh and sing. But it makes us choke.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it does that.
And I went, and I started laughing. And Otter in the room said, "Who are you talking to?" So from then on, marijuana became chokeweed.
That's hilarious. I'm going to call it chokeweed from now on, too.
Kuwani Lapsaritis, when we told him this story, said, oh, yes, the Sasquatch were great herbalists. And he had an experience in Oklahoma where there was a gifting tree, and a lady that owned the land that the gifting tree was on normally went with him to the gifting tree, but she had a migraine one day. So he went by himself. And he left the gifts and he said, I'm sorry that the landowner isn't here. She has a very bad headache right now. And when he came back about 3 hours later to see if the gifts had been taken, they were gone, and this huge colo of pot was sitting on the stump. And the Sasquatch gave him the instructions to have her make it into a tea and drink it, that it would take care of her headache. And so that's how he knew that they understood the medicinal properties of things.
Oh, yeah.
And I went,
and you don't choke that way either.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, that's
So,
hilarious.
chokeweed.
That's great. That's great. I love it. I love it. So, any more pics you want to show real quick?
Gosh.
Or
I've got.
trust me, I love the stories. We're going to definitely have to have you back on.
Here, I have a little fella leaning up against a tree. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah, I can see it. I don't remember that one.
Squirrel approaches the Sasquatch going, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. But I think the Sasquatch eats squirrels, don't they?
They may.
Yeah, I think they do, because I think I found one once that looks like it got eaten by a Sasquatch. It would peel like a banana.
The younger set, the teenagers and the youngsters that are probably anywhere from age 7 to 10, like to mess with campers.
Yeah.
And they will spy on them and see what they're doing because they're curious. And then in the wee hours of the night, they'll go run their hands on the tent.
Yeah, I've not had that happen, thank goodness. I wonder if that's what messed with me that night, but it sounded way big. But
if it sounded big, it probably was big.
It sounded really, I mean, it sounded like a silverback gorilla. I mean, it really did. So, but it was October, and I got this suspicion, I might be totally wrong, I just have a feeling that like that's their mating season or something, or the males are more ramped up at that point in time.
That wouldn't surprise me, only because if I think of their gestation, which is a little bit longer than ours, I would have to say 10 and a half, maybe 11 months. And their kids are born a little bit larger than ours are, but not by tons. I mean, 20 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
And then they stay in that younger stage, clinging to mom's hair. And it's, by the way, for all of you who say hair or fur, it is not fur. It is hair.
I always say hair.
Yeah.
Actually bothers
So-
me when people say fur.
Yeah. There's not layers and under layers
Yeah.
of it. Just hair like we have.
Yeah.
Same thing. But they cling to mom's back just like other animal species do, and ride around on mom's back and mom's shoulders or dad's shoulders. And that's pretty common. I don't know if I have any other little ones here or not, other than my little guy with the hat.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I like him.
Yeah.
It was me thinking about, of all the things that Sasquatch kids would pick up that we would leave around.
Mm-hmm.
If they found one of our hats, what would they do with it? They would do what any kid does. They put it on their head. They splash
That's
around
great.
and have fun doing the same things as our kids do. They'll take stones and throw them. They'll take rocks and stack them. They'll skip stones across the water. They'll splash in puddles. Anything that our youngsters and toddlers do, they're toddlers.
Yeah, but I hear stories about them playing in trees. A lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but when you hear of one in a tree, it's usually a juvenile. And I mean, like a kid climbing a tree is what it makes me think of every time I hear it.
That's exactly right. Because it's the fastest, easiest way for them to get out of sight and out of reach.
Yeah, yeah. And then the little I know there's bigger versions of what they call nests and stuff, but sometimes the little teepee structures they say are only big enough. And I wonder, is it the parents building that for the kids, or is the kids building it to play in, or a combination? Little of both.
All right. So I had a geologist who's also into Sasquatch up in northern Montana, scouting out new sites for the company that he was working with. And he and another geologist were up way out in country that nobody goes into. And walked up a trail, and he started looking around and realizing he was seeing more Sasquatch structures around. And they turned a corner, and suddenly there on the ground was something very different that he hadn't ever seen before. It was approximately a 10-foot by 10-foot area where the pine tree ends of the branches with the little soft tips had been woven together so that all the tips were pointing up over this whole 10 by 10 foot area. And in one corner of it was a little curled up string, and in another corner of it was a little old dirty white shoelace curled up. And it was springy. And he looked at it, and the geologist that was with him started climbing on it, and the forest went silent. And he said, I think you better get off of there, because he started looking around and realized that he was looking at an area that looked for all the world like a Sasquatch nursery, play area where they could play safely and not be running off into the forest away from mom. But this springy pine bough bed looked for all the world like a bed for a very, very young Sasquatch. And he said, we need to get out of here, and we need to get out of here now. Why? Well, I think you're climbing on a Sasquatch baby bed. And that's not going to fly.
No.
We got to go. And the other geologist went, yeah, right. And they left, but the second geologist went home, and when they got together the next day for work, he stopped him and he said, you know what? I think I owe you an apology, because I was up all night thinking about that woven structure. I thought and thought and thought, who would weave it? Why would they weave it? What would it be used for? Why were the strings there? He said, I have not come up with any other better explanation than what you gave me. And I tend to think you're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, especially where they do find those things, it's like out in the middle of nowhere, and
No,
nobody knows you're gonna roll across that area. So it makes no sense for somebody to
right.
like set something up so you're gonna stumble across it. So
And how many human beings would weave something that big?
exactly.
Why would it be that big? They would make it as small as they needed to make it.
And why would they even do it? I
Right.
mean, for
Exactly.
real. If you want to get
Exactly.
down to the dirty of it.
That's
So
right. That's right. That's why I love just sitting down with Sasquatch people who have unusual stories and hearing them talk about everything from the little guys, the
yeah,
woodmen, big guys, and the interactions thereof. We've learned a lot about their art. We've learned a lot about the stick glyphs that they leave on the ground for their signatures and messages to one another out of sticks. We've seen where they've taken rocks and stippled images into other softer rocks by pounding them.
yep,
We've seen artwork that appears to be like made of charcoal or some coloring, like you would see smushed berries in your hand. But the Sasquatch create faces and profiles of themselves in a lot of places. And in fact, it's part of the way that they navigate around the area. You know how if you look at a rock on a mountain and it looks like a face, you might give it a name. Well, they do give them names. And so when they're talking to other Sasquatch about where to go and how to get there, they refer to the rock faces and the stone faces that they've either created or are just there naturally and use them like you and I might use street sign names.
got you. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, that and I mean, they're so adept to their environment too. But that might be a way of saying, hey, you know, they don't know the specific spot, but it's over here by Sue Walker Rock.
That's right.
Go to
That's
Sue
right.
Walker Rock,
Exactly.
take a right, and it'll be about 50 feet away from there.
That's right. Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
Sue, it was so much fun talking to you tonight.
This has been fun.
Do me a
I've really
favor,
enjoyed
tell
it.
your
We've got
t-
all kinds of topics
oh yeah,
that we
yeah. Oh,
go
we
on and on and on about.
I know. Well, we're gonna have you back on, whether you like it or not. Tell your yeah, whether you like it or not. That's the way this show works. So tell your husband Otter that Patrick says hi, Dirty says
will.
hi. And is there anything you want to promote before we get off of here?
Well, all right. So let's repeat the Ponte's website, which is officialfirstcontact.com. You can learn all about them there. If you want to see my art, I have an Instagram channel that's my name, Sue Walker, but I don't write my first name Sue with an E on the end of it. It's just SU.
Correct.
So it's Sue_Walker 1111, 4 ones
Okay.
on Instagram. On YouTube, you can see all kinds of art from the last 10 years of the Ponte, of Sasquatch, of anything else that I've been drawing lately. And in fact, reels of my favorite ones if you want to. And the YouTube channel is called @Sandia Wisdom. It's the same as the Twitter account name @Sandia Wisdom.
Okay.
So @Sandia Wisdom for either YouTube or Twitter will get you to the Ponte and or my artwork there. I occasionally put things on TikTok, but Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter are the big ones.
Okay.
There is Facebook fan page, Friends of the Sandia Mountain Ponte. Also, if people want to join a private group that way and learn more. But my recommendation for all of your listeners would be to simply go download the free Telepathy 101 primer so that whether they're a Sasquatch researcher or interested in ET, they can learn how to enhance their own telepathic skill set and learn how to talk to them. Because once you can start a conversation, then you can get somewhere.
Heck yeah.
But you gotta know how to get there first.
Heck yeah. Well, you know what, everybody out there, listen to Sue, S.U. Walker. Go check her stuff out. Go check out the pages and the telepathy stuff. I know I'm going to go check it out. And thank you so much, Sue.
You are very, very welcome.
Thank you, Producer Dirty, and everybody out there. What's that? Oh, he says thank you, Dirty. Everybody out there.
Keep it creepy.
Thank you, Sue, so much.
Yeah, out in the woods where the shadows creep. I'm trying to find the legend that the people keep. Bigfoot's the name, got a story to tell. Footprints in the mud, can't you hear the bell? Whispers in the night, can you feel that chill? Bigfoot on the run, he's a legend, keep it real. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride. Like I'm on a quest, searching for the homie, you know he's the best. Got my camera ready, heightened senses on blast. Snap a shot of Sasquatch, legend unsurpassed. Eyes in the dark, you can't catch what you can't see. King of the woods, living wild and free. Bigfoot, yeah, he's the talk of the town. Creeping through the trees, never wearing a frown. Legend of the forest, he's got a big stride. As the trap beats thump, you know he's got pride.